Hello everyone, welcome to Politalks. I'm your host Myra, and today in our show we have a special guest, John Jeffery, who is running for Ward 13. Welcome to our show.
Thank you, Myra. Pleased to be here.
So, we want to know more about you, and we want to know, when did your political activism begin, and what were some of the reasons that inspired you?
Actually, it started back in high school, so that was quite a while ago. I was living out in Etobicoke at the time and got involved in pollution cleanup programs and organized several sort of small organizations in Etobicoke to help clean up the local waterways out there. And that sort of led into being passionate about sustainability and green living and the concept of green living in cities.
Well, that's so important because you start like from a young age, and in your school, it's where all of us can begin, right?
It is. I think it's a great time to start. Back when you're young, you have passions, and it's always great when you can use those passions for good. And I certainly encourage anybody to follow their heart. I think you followed your heart a little bit more when you're younger, maybe not so much your head, but that comes later perhaps.
Yes, that's true. Well, so why did you first decide to run for the city councilor?
It was relatively recently. It was back under the 47 ward model. The ward that I lived in is the Gay Village, and that was going to be one of the new wards in the city. So, and the sitting councillor for that area at the time had decided not to run in that ward, so there wasn't going to be an incumbent. So I'd been, over the last few years, more and more concerned about the way in which council has been run, and I'd been sort of yelling at this from the sidelines, and decided it was time to sort of step up and maybe try and make a difference in getting involved in city politics. So that's really what led into that. Obviously things have changed now that we're under the new ward system, but I'd still like to try and make a difference, and maybe if I'm just at least one voice in the wilderness, hopefully get heard at the end of the day.
Yeah, sure. Well, what is the role for you for a city councilor, and what do you think that you will enjoy most about the job?
I'm not sure if it's one of those jobs that you're going to enjoy right off the bat. I think obviously stepping into a new role, you've got to understand it from the inside. You've got to get used to what it takes to become a councillor here in the city. Through my working life, I've run several organizations, and the one thing that was always important, that as being sort of the leader, you kind of checked your ego. You didn't bring your ego to the game. Yeah. What you did was you made sure you surrounded yourself with good people, people that knew better than you did about a lot of the issues, and how to basically get the best out of the organization. You became, as a leader, more of a project manager and try to build consensus. And that's what I see a councillor should be. They should really be pulling the best from the community, from the people that work at City Hall. Decisions should be based on facts and data, not so much on politics or on ideology or preconceived notions. They should really be focused on what's best for the city and what's best for the citizens of the city, especially when you're trying to build a city that it's going to outlast us. So we really should be building a city that's going to be good for not only us, but our children and our grandchildren. So short-term decision-making really shouldn't have a place at City Hall, in my opinion.
Yeah, so you want to do this for the future generations and work with the professionals, right, for the planning of...
Absolutely. I think that's how you build something. You build a really good bedrock, and then you build on that. And you put in place decision-making that is always looking out 20, 30 years. So you're always looking after the next generation. You're always looking after, make sure that the city is, you leave the city in a better state than what you found it in. And hopefully the next generation does the same thing.
Yeah, that's so important. Well, how do you feel that Premier Ford's proposed chair change will impact you on the city or in your, if you get the position? How do you think that this is going to affect you?
I think it's going to make it more difficult for the individual councillors. I think instead of where a councillor may have been representing 60,000 people, they're now representing upwards of 100,000 people. So I think that a lot of the detail from the community, a lot of the community concerns may not be heard effectively. So I think that, I know that we've been playing around with community councils in Toronto, but it's my impression that we haven't really solidified community councils enough. So I think under the new structure, we need to make sure that every ward has ample community councils set up to represent the individual neighborhoods within each of the wards, so that local concerns can be addressed, they can be brought up, they can be looked at, and solutions that are appropriate for each of the communities can be found. Some of these things may not have to go up to the council level. They can maybe just be dealt with at the local level. And so there may be a way of actually enacting, problem solving quicker without red tape. Maybe we can just get things done at a local level without actually having to involve council sometimes.
Yeah.
So if anything, that may, if that's the new structure of how the city's going to be, that may be something beneficial that might come out of the change, perhaps.
Yes. That's part of the challenge, right? And, well, what do you think are going to be some challenges for you in this job?
I think the challenge really, as I said, it's trying to make sure that you not only address the day-to-day concerns of the communities and the people that live within the ward, but also develop a strategic plan that is good for the city long-term. I think it's trying to balance those two things off effectively, so that you take care of the day-to-day details, but you also make sure that you do the long-range planning. I don't like it when councils sort of undo the work that a previous council may have done. That tends to waste time and money and doesn't tend to build on moving forward in the city. So I think it's sort of undoing some of the preconceived notions about how things have been done. I think that's going to be hard to either get used to or try and affect change
like
with.
Change. This is it's gonna be a hard challenge. So, well, what would you say that are 3 important goals that you want to accomplish in the role?
I would say that probably the ones that are important to most people that I talk to, and they concern housing, safety, and the livability of the city. Just how we live in the city and how pleasant it is to get through each day.
Yeah.
Those seem to be the ones that seem to resonate most with people. And I think with the livability, you're talking about things like transit, how we move around the city on a day-to-day basis, how we walk, how we just, interact with our neighbors. Do we have enough space on the streets, sidewalks? Is it a pleasant neighborhood? Are local businesses involved in the neighborhood? Obviously, these days, safety is a paramount concern. I think safety and housing are sort of linked, because I think if we are providing good, affordable housing to those that need it, it may take some of the pressure off some of the safety issues. I mean, in as much as you're building a better community, you're building somewhere that people like to live. And I think also in that, you've got to build in the community resources. You've got to have the community centers that are supporting the people that live in that center, and you've got to have prospects for jobs. and training as well. I think these all sort of go hand in hand.
Yes, our aspect that all of we are involved, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and you told us that you started your activism since you were so young. So how do you feel that the citizens can be involved in the issues?
I think you follow your passion, and if you've got a passion for something, then I think you should. There seems to be there are a lot of resources in the city, and there's a lot of different groups, whether they be ad hoc groups from the community or whether the city themselves has committees, and they're often inviting people to join in committees to get involved. To make their voice known. And I think if people know about these things, I think that a lot of the time people just don't know what's available or how to get involved. And I think if the community resources are there so that they can direct people as to how they might best get involved with some of the decision makings at City Hall or in the community. Because there's a great need for people to be involved. And I think people just don't quite understand or quite have access to how to get involved. So I think that should be something that's made easier.
Yes, well, that's true. And, well, there is anything more that you would like to share with us?
No, I think if everybody understands that they can be involved, that their voice is important. I mean, we're a city of 2.6 million people, but individual voices are important, and passion is greatly desired. So the only thing I would say is if you really have a passion for something, and if you want to make a change, and if you want your voice heard, just find the way to do it, and do the best you can.
Yeah, well, that's true, because you want to be like the voice, not your voice to be heard, but the voice of the community, right?
Correct,
Yeah.
correct, yes. I think you've got to, as a councilor, you've got to represent the community. You've got to represent the people that live in the community as best you can.
That's everything for today. Thanks for watching. I'm your host, Myra, and this is RPTV Politalks.